Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, February 17th, 2017.
I'm Michael Agello.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund from Jack Frost Ski Mountain in Pennsylvania. So you can see out there, I can see the lovely skiers as they go by. I'm in the car. And my son's trying to catch the new Pokemon Go, and some of my family has just arrived. So anyway, we're going to do the show today from here because that's a fun thing to do. Okay. Not because we have to.
And you're dressed like Richard Brodeur.
Well, I did. I was dressed like this, but earlier today I was dressed like a giant dinosaur. As I tried to ski. I always try to ski in something strange. Last year I skied in a Chewbacca costume. This year I skied in an inflatable dinosaur costume, which I have a picture of here. So it's good for the soul. And so anybody, if you were at Jack Frost today and you saw a giant dinosaur skiing, that was me. Here it is. So let me show you. It's pretty great. It was really funny. So it's a fun time, as always. Fun time had by all. Here we go. So this is a picture of me. This is me in the dinosaur costume next to my son skiing.
I had
inflatable dinosaur.
Skiing without the costume. I would definitely not wear the costume.
Oh yeah, no, it's not easy. Trust me, it's not easy.
I wouldn't do either.
Anyway,
let's talk some rumors.
Let's talk rumors, shall we? Let's get into, first of all, we got to get into some basic news. Sidney Crosby gets his 1,000th point last night, 757th game. It took him longer than it took Alex Ovechkin to get to 1,000 points, for what it's worth. I don't know that matters, but just...
I don't think it matters.
I mean, Crosby did miss a significant chunk of time with the concussion problem, so that, I mean, it's slow
for sure. So... For sure. The Antoine Vermette suspension, 5 games. Interesting, seeing that happened.
Sweet.
I thought
it should have been better.
Yeah,
should have been more.
Yeah,
I'm a little surprised.
I'm looking forward to seeing.
I'm a little surprised.
Go ahead.
I thought, like, okay, we know that they were locked into that 3, 10, or 20. This is something, and I don't know when like the new agreement with the officials comes up, but I'm sure that this is going to put a burr in their saddle when it comes to, okay, if he does that. I mean, first of all, if he does that to a player, it's a 2-minute minor, but it's an official. An official is a higher level.
Right.
You just don't do it. Maybe,
for sure.
But I think this will be a little bit of a bone of contention with the officials when that negotiation comes up, Russ.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, we got to check out with Paul Stewart on Hockey Buzz, see what he has to say about this, because I'm sure he'll have some choice words for this situation, I would imagine.
I would say.
Yeah, no question about that. Other news, the Seattle Arena developer this article is on Yahoo today, says that he expects a NHL team before an NBA team.
But he doesn't even have an agreement to build the arena yet.
Oh yeah, I know.
This is the problem. Remember when we outlined this? I want to say we outlined this a month or 2 ago, and there were a couple of different locations. So he is basically pre-selling to a team without a location. No team is going to commit to him.
Well,
right,
without a location.
The funny thing here is that there's two competing arena scenarios here. One is the Key Arena redo. The other one is the new arena. Right. I don't know if this article is about Hansen, who's the owner, who wants to build his own arena. But the problem is, if the NHL goes in, say in the next 2 years, they'll have to use the Key Arena because this other building won't be built. So it's a little bit confusing here.
This is some good smoke and mirrors right now to try and raise awareness, but I'm not going to put too much credence into it just yet.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree. This is definitely that. Oh, well, loud. Sorry, guys. Apologize. If you guys could hear that or not, but probably not.
Yeah, no, we're good.
Okay, good. Any other news? So shoot, I lost my place here. Sorry. Go ahead. Continue, Mike.
It's sort of getting into the rumor thing, but not actually a specific rumor. Just
go ahead.
Just the interest that is starting to go before the deadline. We're 12 days away from the deadline, and last night apparently it was standing room only in the KeyBank Center press box in Buffalo. There were, I mean, they said almost every team was represented in the press box, and somebody joked this morning that apparently they ran out of food in the Buffalo press box. If that's the case, because we know that the Buffalo press box, they provide a nice bunch of food for the reporters.
That's awesome.
If they ate all the food, then there were a lot of guys there.
The scouts
That's
get
impressive. They would run out of food in Philly very quickly. They don't really have much food there at all, but Buffalo does have a good spread.
Yeah, they have ice cream. They've got hot dogs. They've got pretzels.
I thought it was an endless supply of hot dogs. I mean, believe me, I've had more than a few of them.
Can I get on my so my high horse today is the fact that the demonizing of Brandon Manning that's going on in Edmonton right now is astonishing.
Yeah, it's probably gone over the top, but I think some of it is just. I do.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think Manning's a dirty player. Do you?
It's not that he's a dirty player, but it's the fact that last game is when this needed to be settled, and instead we heard that there was trash talking. That's what he's paying for, Eck. He's not paying for anything else.
Yeah.
This is the thing, because we were talking about this before we started the show. Because Brandon Manning fought Patrick Maroon yesterday in the game. Apparently, Maroon got the advantage.
Right.
Question is it over now? And I'm like, okay, if you wouldn't have trash talked McDavid and said I did it on purpose, that hadn't happened, I would have said it's over. But him trash talking McDavid like that, I don't think it's ever going to be over. Every time they play Philadelphia, Lucic or Maroon or somebody is gonna have a bird in their saddle and go after him.
You might be right. I would normally say it's over, but then the Taylor Hall thing's not even over. It seems to linger there a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think, this is, Connor McDavid, right? So it's going to continue that way. And Lucic last night taking a shot to the privates of Brandon Manning was not a lot of fun either. And Manning getting the first penalty I've ever seen for someone exaggerating a shot to their – anyway. I mean, I was like, what the heck? That was really funny. You could tell Manning's expression was like, really? I got that for exaggeration of what just happened? I mean, it was pretty crazy. That was a really just ridiculously dirty play by Lucic.
I don't think Manning's a bad guy. I've interviewed him. I like him. But I just think he made a rookie mistake by trash talking the guy and not just fighting and getting it over with. He did have the power to end it last time. Now we're not sure it's over, but it should be.
Well, another page to the chapter of, I would say, preferential treatment when it comes to star players happened last night, because Evgeny Malkin with the hit on, I think it was Blake Wheeler of Winnipeg, I think should have been a suspension. But lo and behold, if it's Ovechkin, if it's Malkin, if it's a star player and it's questionable, they get off scot-free because they're star players.
Right.
I think that's crap.
He's a big player, Mike. That's what we always hear. Well, he's a big guy, and
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They're all big guys. Come on now. I mean, most of them are pretty big. I don't know. I found
you hear that excuse. You do hear that, Eck.
There is kind of an interesting development in the rumor world right now because Oli Mata now is out. We just talked about Oli Mata yesterday. Remember? We got into this whole thing. I guess we cursed him or something because. Pittsburgh fans are going to love us right now because, we were saying yesterday that Oli Mata could be one of those trade deadline guys if Pittsburgh's looking to move because he was in their 5th or 6th defensive spot. Well, now he's out for 6 weeks.
Right.
And Oli Mata has the history of just crazy, unfortunate, nothing. Not like he's not injury prone. He's all been freaky injuries.
Yeah.
Not to mention.
He had cancer. So.
Cancer, right. It's a disease. So, but him going down adds a couple interesting twists to things because suddenly now there's space, this now, you really can properly start to talk about the Penguins in terms of Duchesne. And I think that's, I don't think Duchesne's the right fit for the Penguins.
No.
If I'm the Penguins, I don't know why, I don't know why they're going to go after Duchesne. They have enough offense as it is.
If anything, you're right. And because, Mata's salary is $4.08 million. If they put him on long-term injury, he has a hand injury. They say it's going to be 6 weeks. We're 7 weeks before the end of the regular season, so they could very easily do what everybody thought that Tampa was going to do with Stamkos and put him on long-term injury.
Stretch it out.
Right, and then just bring him back for the first game of the playoffs. If they do that, I mean, yeah, they can open up space to make a move. But I still think the move is a defenseman because their defense. I mean, now with Mata out, I mean, I think you need some more support.
Well, here's what they could do. I mean, they could bring Warsofsky up. He's come up and down. He's been unbelievable in the AHL. He is a good offensive defenseman. He hasn't shown that on the NHL level yet, but they could possibly plug him in. We just had Randy Sexton on. We taped today for our Sirius show that'll air tomorrow, and I'm not going to give away and scoop the show, but I will say that they have a way now in Pittsburgh of developing defensemen that's very interesting, and he gave us the insight into that. And so they do have about 3 guys that, you know, are probably 2 to 4 years away. So at least if people are wondering, hey, if they trade somebody, is there anybody coming? There are guys coming, and I guess Warsofsky may be the closest.
Right. Interesting. There's getting on to my Boston rumor I want to talk about today that I put out there. This one's really, really heating up, and it really appears as if Boston is I'm not going to say desperate, but the team that's most likely to make a big move with draft picks and with prospects. And I've even heard as many as like 2 or 3 prospects in this one that could come up from some of the prospects they have in college, some they have in the minors. This is going to be really they're going after Landeskog. That's their goal in Boston. So it's not Duchesne. But then I went on, to find, basically I started talking to some people this morning about this Landeskog Duchesne thing, and they said there's a couple different ways teams go about this, right? And when you have a player that you're looking for, and the way it's usually done is by smart teams is they go out there and they approach a team like, say, let's just say they approach Montreal and they look at Montreal and they say, okay, you could really use Duchesne, obviously. You've got, there are certain players that, that are diminishing returns for you. You could maybe move this player out, that player in, because they're players that aren't going to hurt you, that, you don't have to re-sign next year or to save you cap space along the line, and do it that way. And apparently with Colorado has not been doing it that way at all. They've been sitting back waiting for everybody to make their proposals. Now that's okay, but what ends up happening is people have no idea where to start. They hear these ridiculous things. So it's almost like, are you asking a girl out and you don't know whether or not she has any interest in going out with you? So they're sort of sitting back and they're like, okay, well,
I guess it's like blind bidding. Remember we used to hear about blind bidding? That's what it's like.
Right. Well, Colorado has apparently the only team that Colorado has not been that way with is Boston for whatever reason. And the connection here is Sweeney is very tight with some of the people in the management in Colorado, and it's the kind of situation where, you could go to, he could make a ridiculous, outlandish offer to Ottawa like we heard last week, right, for Duchesne. But if you're really good buddies with somebody, it's harder to do that. It's harder to go and say, I need 3 first-round draft picks and da-da-da-da. So there's a chance that Boston and Colorado could actually get this together because there's already a relationship there of 2 guys that talk together all the time. Not Sakic, but somebody else in the system who but who helps with all the dealings. And that apparently has moved them along and into the front of the whole thing. So it's an interesting twist. It's a very inside baseball type thing, but it's kind of stuff that matters this time of year that I'm always looking into because relationships and connections are everything this time of year.
It makes a difference.
They do. They make a huge difference because there are 29 teams out there, right? There's 29 other teams you can deal with, and that's almost impossible to imagine as a GM.
It's going to be 30. When can Vegas make trades?
If they make the final payment that they owe the league, they can make trades before March the 1st. But it can't.
You might have to start saying 30. Yeah.
Yeah, it can't involve an NHL contract, but they can trade for unsigned prospects and draft picks and stuff like that. I mean,
no, exactly, and that.
The one thing about this rumor, you would think that his name has been mentioned many a time before, but you would think that Brandon Carlo has to be involved in this because we're talking about a Colorado kid a 20-year-old
Yeah.
defenseman, a big defenseman. Every deal that they're talking with teams with supposedly involves a defenseman that they want back. So I mean, I would think that
The thing about that is when Boston had their they just recently had their bye week, obviously, when they fired Julian, and Carlo spent the bye week in Colorado Springs. So there were a lot of people out there who were taking pictures of him. It's like, oh, Carlo's in town, it's an Instagram thing. He must be here because he's going to get. Yeah, that's just where he lives, I mean, that's where his family is. So it was not a big deal, but obviously the connection there is big, and I was trying to think of the Avalanche if they've really gone after Colorado, University of Colorado players before, or just players from local players. I can't think of.
They have a University of Colorado player, I think.
Yeah, I know. I do know.
They're not like Denver. It's like really Denver University. Yeah.
Yeah, I do know that there were a lot of rumors a few years back tying them to interest in Tyler Bozak, who went to the University of Denver. It never ended up coming to fruition, but there were some connections between the two based on the fact that they knew him from Denver University and liked him, but it never ended.
Right.
Will Butcher, remember Will Butcher? He was the one.
Oh yeah. But I mean, we've talked about it before. That there's an ups and a downside to that, right? I mean, there's definitely a some players, no question, want to play at home. Some players don't want to play at home. So when you have a free agent situation, I always think the free agents being traded or signing with their hometown teams is overblown. I think that because believe me, it's not the most fun to play in your hometown as it would seem to be. I mean, at the end of your career, perhaps, but the big hassle of playing your hometown is that everybody wants tickets to every game. Every situation is always, and sometimes players really prefer to be away, to not be in that situation. Now,
well, I'll tell you the biggest Bubemeister out there is the Jason Zucker going to Vegas because, he's one of the best players on the Wild, and so they're definitely going to protect him, and he's definitely not going to Vegas. I mean,
he doesn't want to go to Vegas. I know Gossespierre doesn't want to play in Florida. I talked to him about it. So it's like there's certain situations like guys just don't want to do that, So now teams sometimes, will trade for players locally because that, especially if they're within their program or whatever, because it shows, here's a guy who played on our youth hockey program and came through, and that's a good thing for a team to see, And
you touched on it, and I have to tell you that recently Ron Hextall said that Shane Gostisbehere is not on the trading block. Do you believe that?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do. I thought about it. I thought about it a lot recently, and I do believe that. I think that I think Gostisbehere is safer than Hextall. But I do think I think Hextall.
I think that's fair.
I think if things keep going like they're going right now, Hextall could have issues. Maybe not before the end of the season, but at the end of the season, I could see it happening. Or maybe before the end of the season, if right now, if they have any interest in like a Gerard Gallant, who has connections to some people in the Flyers organization now too, and I know personally that there are people within the Flyers organization that are pushing for Gallant to bring him in some capacity.
Well, I mean, I'll say this: what is it? They've lost 5 of 6 now. This Western Canadian swing has been bad. And
they haven't lost too. They have looked horrible losing. I mean,
they don't have any sustained offense. Basically, here's the thing. Lately, Nick Cousins is their best player.
I know, and Wheel, Wheel who comes in, who's like, he gets hurt last night, and everyone's freaking out that Wheel's not going to be back in the game. I'm like, what the heck is happening to this team? Well, that Jason Wheel's return is so important right now.
Yeah.
And also the fact that last night he goes into the game and with one less forward, I thought that was a really odd move too on Hextall's part.
With every loss, I think it increases the chances that they're going to end up moving a Streit or a Delzato or a Nick Schultz.
I think it could be all three.
I think they would move all three. I think Delzato is pretty safe. I don't understand at all playing Delzato with Gostisbehere. That is like the strangest defensive combination in the history of time. They are the same exact player, and they really are the same player, and neither of them plays defense. So, between that, you don't even have a half of a normal defenseman, And you're going with 5 forwards basically.
They're both ones in Stratomatic.
They're both
Oh,
ones
really?
that
We're
go down
going back to that. Okay.
that go down to 0, Mike, on power plays. I mean, it's like these you cannot have these guys. You know, they really have nothing there. So, to me, hey, hold on 1 second. I gotta take one thing really one quick. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, Russ, just extrapolating from that report that we were talking about all the scouts being in Buffalo.
Yeah.
The curious thing about the scouts in Buffalo last night, the fact was Adrian Dater reported the fact that the Leafs might now be in the sweepstakes for Landeskog and Duchesne. I'm not sure if I believe it.
I'm not sure either. I do. Adrian Dater is very, very tied in with Colorado, though. Knows Duchesne extremely well.
And the reason I bring
to show this. Sorry, real quick. I have to show this. Someone sent this to me just via text. This is hilarious. This was hilarious or inappropriate. I don't know, but I think it's fine to show. This was someone at the Edmonton game last night who wore this. You see this, guys?
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, that's a Neanderthal right there.
Yeah, and he's wearing a Roenick jersey. I mean, that's
a double fail.
I love collar. Oh man, that's awesome. Sorry.
So, but anyway,
continue. Sorry.
After that report in the Colorado Buffalo game, there were 3 Maple Leaf scouts at that game. Now, I think that potentially they're looking at other players. The Leafs need a depth center and a guy like John Mitchell, who's a veteran guy, who's a face-off guy.
Didn't they have John Mitchell already?
They drafted John Mitchell. But we're talking about a guy you can get for a 5th-round draft pick. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, he's a 55% face-off guy, and they don't like their 4th-line center situation right now. But I don't know if that's
these are middling moves. Like, this isn't moving them forward. It's not.
Other than what I said yesterday regarding and we found out that in fact the Leafs did put Robidas, Lupul, and Nathan Horton on long-term injury. They opened up almost $14 million in cap space. The Leafs are going to be, and I wrote about this just a few minutes ago. The Leafs, I said they're going to be the depository for dead money because if you're a team that's close to the cap and you have a guy who you're trying to get rid of, the Leafs can take that salary on, no problem. But
here's the thing. I get what you're saying is correct.
That sounds like my first wife, the depository for dead money. Sorry, I'm just throwing that out there.
What you're saying is correct, but it doesn't – John Mitchell for next season does not move this team forward.
No. He's an expiring contract. I think it's just for the last 20 games of the season.
This is the chance. This is them taking a shot. I mean, they are going
to take a shot against John Mitchell. Okay.
Well, no. This is them tuning up. I mean, this is you have to. You really want to. Toronto is close enough to this thing, and they're in the playoffs right now. And I don't think they're not. I think they have a way better than 50% chance of making the playoffs right now. So.
I mean, Russ, right now, who's a better 4th-line center, John Mitchell or Ben Smith?
How about trading for Dominic Moore? I mean, you might be able to get Dominic Moore in a trade.
It'll cost them something, and they don't want. That's the thing. They don't want to.
You get what you pay for. Like
they don't want to
trade for Winnick. Is there any way they can trade for Winnick again? You got to bring Winnick back somehow.
Honestly, in looking at scenarios of teams that are contenders right now and contracts that the Leafs might be willing to take back, I mentioned David Desharnais, and it would be ridiculous if Montreal and Toronto made a trade together, but I think it's a possibility. But the one that I started laughing at as soon as I looked at the name was Jonathan Bernier, because right now Anaheim is up against the cap, and Bernier's a $4 million cap hit. And, I mean, can you imagine if Bernier got traded back to Toronto to clear cap space for the Ducks? No,
I cannot.
Hey, you know what? Yannick Perreault's only 45. Why don't they bring him back for faceoffs?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that, I'm happy that Toronto is thinking about making a move to actually go for something you don't know how many times you're going to get a chance to make the playoffs. I know that you're something
better than John Mitchell. That is a minor upgrade.
Right, but they're not.
Again, but to do that, they're not going to give up anything. So they're in the spot where they're not going to give up anything.
It doesn't have to be like, if that's all you're looking for, I'm telling you, trust me as a Ranger fan, I've seen them do these marginal things. When the Rangers got Rem Murray in a trade, nothing could have been more marginal.
Well, but Mike Babcock in his press conference this morning basically said if you're sitting there waiting for something to happen at the deadline involving the Leafs, you're basically wasting your time. Which to me convinces me they're going to do something because
Sure, I agree with that.
Always counterintuitive.
Yeah, that's true. I wanted to point to a really good article by Down Goes Brown that's out today. It's on Sportsnet.ca. His stuff is great always. But it's Sean McIndoe. He
Are you allowed to give out his
today,
real name? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, he's not allowed to give out mine. But on Sportsnet, he does a column, and his column today is 10 traded picks that turned into NHL superstars. Really good article. At some point, I think during the deadline, I'm going to put this on hold, and if for some reason we have a slow deadline, we'll go to this and have some fun with it because it's a really good.
But believe me, like 5 or 6 of them are probably Leaf draft picks.
Oh, there's a couple.
There are some serious ones in here.
Mike Camilleri for Aki Berg.
Like for example, Ray Bourque, and Ray Bourque was a traded deadline picks. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, you never know what's going to happen, but we talked about it before. That's just a really fascinating article and really well written. So definitely go check it out, and we'll talk about it. Another quick little thing before we get into another rumor that was sent to me that I wanted to mention today because my buddy in St. Louis who does the website was telling me we don't talk about the Blues enough in a positive light on this.
I don't know. I think I've been pretty fair to the Blues, but whatever. Sorry, buddy.
The Mike Yao now has the best start of any head coach in Blues franchise history.
So what does that mean?
That's impressive.
I mean, really, but it's just like
he's 7-1 a couple things that this means. This means first of all, the Blues haven't had many coaches that did well to get out of the gate. The Blues have had slow starts with new coaches, but to take over a team that was really floundering, and falling apart.
With the team the whole time.
But also the assistant coach thing is tough. I think the assistant coach thing
did it well in his initial. The initial bump was good with Craig Berube, so I would expect the same with the Blues. It was the season after that things went wrong.
But all this success does for the Blues. Sorry, Chris. All this success that the Blues that they're going through right now only clouds the issue of what the hell they're going to do with some of their players because they've got Patrick Berglund as a UFA who could walk for nothing. They got Shattenkirk. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Fabry's out for the year. Stastny's on injury reserve right now. I mean, they're having success, and Carter Hutton's having shutouts. But it's a question of how far this team is going to get.
So is Yo better than Scotty Bowman and Mike Keenan now?
No. I mean, it's impressive, and I'm sure that the Blues. Are
we going to say that with Doug Wade? Is he better than Al Arbor now?
but come on.
I have a crazy stat for us today.
Okay.
This comes from Hockey's Reddit, which is a great website. But so Wayne, we talked about how fast Crosby got to 1,000, how fast Ovechkin got to 1,000, right?
Right.
There's an article that argues in Wikipedia. It's actually in Wikipedia, which is interesting. But this guy argues that Gretzky was both the fastest and the second fastest player to record 1,000 points in NHL history, which is really interesting. So Gretzky did it in the second quickest in actuality was Mario Lemieux, who did it in 513 games.
Yeah.
Gretzky get his first 1,000 in 424 games, and then took only 433 games to score his second 1,000. How crazy is that?
It's interesting, but I think it's harder to do it now, and so I think the era change is much different.
Yeah.
No, it has, but I mean that's just that he's got to 2,000 in 800 in under 850 games. That's astonishing.
Nobody's ever going to touch Wayne Gretzky's records. I mean, nobody.
It's interesting and a pain at the same time. That's
Yager would have to play for another 20 years.
Yeah.
No, for sure. There were.
I know there's some Reddit guy that says no. Yager only has to play for 9.5 more seasons. I get it.
Yeah, only 9.5 more seasons.
I don't know what the number is. I'm making it up.
No, you're right though. It's insane. I mean, it really is completely insane. Zucker was hurt last night, wasn't he? By the way.
I think he may be. Yeah.
By the way, here's another interesting twist here that on Minnesota is that Mike Yao has been letting Marty Brodeur choose the starting goalie.
Okay.
Which is for what it's worth. Now the funny thing about that is that Marty Brodeur has spent his entire career choosing the starting goalie because in New Jersey, he was allowed to choose when he started.
That's true.
Oh, he's an expert. But they can't call his own number.
That. I know it's the only time I've ever seen that's done that. But they had a thing there where they said they went to Brodeur and said if you want to play, you're in. If you don't want to play, you're not. So
you know what? I think with Tortorella, Lundqvist had that ability too because Tortorella didn't like making goaltending decisions, so he would just put Lundqvist in every game.
Yeah,
and Lundqvist
that's probably
would stay
possible
when he's not playing, probably.
You know, speaking of which, Talbot, who's played every freaking second of the year this year, is piling up some serious record type statistics as well, and has been very good. Not that I didn't realize that at the beginning of the year and say he would be. Just throwing it out there.
In other injury news, Mitch Marner is listed as day-to-day by the Leafs, but I will offer this: the last player that was day-to-day for the Leafs was Morgan Rielly. It was 14 days, so it's not exactly day-to-day.
Yeah, this is when you hear them go day-to-day, you know that it's going to be probably 4 or 5 games at least.
Right.
This was sent to me now too, and it's a bizarre one. I'm trying to dig into more of it. I just got this text.
Okay.
By the way, if you're just joining, I'm at Jack Frost Big Boulder in Pennsylvania, which is skiing place. You can see people out there. Actually, I think the skiing is closed for the day. So
Wait, you don't ski under the lights? What's the matter?
There are no lights here.
Oh.
There are no lights at this place, but it's beautiful. Instead, everybody's just here in the bar having a good old time.
Yeah.
So just let you know. But someone sent me that the Montreal Canadiens and Tampa Bay Lightning are talking. I guess I'm going to have to write about this as we go along here. And that Plekanec could be involved. How about that?
I'm not buying it.
No way.
I have to check more into it for sure.
I don't think Montreal has any designs on trading Thomas Plekanec.
I think they would trade him in a heartbeat if they could. If they could,
they
would.
His $6 million salary. See, I don't think they might be able to. They might be willing to trade him, but I don't think Tampa Bay would be in. I'd be surprised if Tampa Bay is in.
You don't know what he's going to do under Julian. He's a very talented guy. If Julian unlocks Thomas Plekanec, that is huge for the Canadiens.
Yeah, he's got another year left at $6 million.
Yeah, I think that was maybe the case a week ago. I don't know if it's the case now.
Okay, so this comes from a friend of mine in Montreal who said this was reported on 98.5, which is the official radio station of the French radio station for the Canadiens.
Right.
And was reported. Let's see, at time 1:30 this afternoon. So.
Well, okay. Let's just take this at face value.
And they believe that Baby Boyle could be the guy coming back to Montreal.
Okay. Now
that's possible.
Now, but yeah, let's take it at face value here. You have the $8.5 million of Stamkos on long-term injury. They could afford to take Plekanec back.
True.
Boyle makes $2 million. He would be that big center that Montreal's been looking for. They've been talking about Hansel. They've been talking about possibly Berglund in St. Louis. So that would fit there.
Well, I got to tell you, if Tampa makes that deal, that is a steal for them.
The thing is here is that is this an?
Do you think Plekanec is a little bit done? I mean,
I think with the right guys on Tampa, I think if you put him with Drouin, you could wake him back up. I think you can get a lot out of him still. Where Boyle, yes, he's going to win some faceoffs. I don't think he'll score at the same regularity with Montreal. I think there'll be more pressure on him. When there's more pressure on him, he had 120-goal season with the Rangers, and then if you noticed, his numbers kept going down and down. It's going to be a lot of pressure for him there. In Tampa, it's not that much pressure for Boyle.
This smacks of wishful thinking on the part of Montreal because I mean the Plekanec is his numbers are declining. He's making $6 million next year. The only thing I see here is and it was Julian in his first practice with the Habs put Galchenyuk at center in between Pacioretty and Radulov. So if they're going to go with Galchenyuk as the number one center,
picking up the line.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, you've got a guy like Desharnais who they've been trying to dump over the last couple months. Does Julian come in mean they're going to give Desharnais a second chance? Although, I mean, that's the only thing that makes sense because if they're going to do that, then maybe that frees them up to trade Plekanec. So I just can't see Tampa taking Plekanec back at $6 million per. I just can't.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
He's got more points than Boyle. He's just making a lot more money. But I still think with the right guys, you'll get something out of him. I don't think he's done yet. He's 34. I think he just, a change of scenery I think would be good for him. I do. But I still think Julian might be able to unlock him too.
I mean, is this a sign that Tampa's, because Tampa's at 57 points, I believe. They're 6 points out of a playoff spot right now.
And when is do we have any idea on Stamkos's return?
The last thing that I heard was mid-March, but I assumed that meant, if they were going to be in the playoffs, that they would maybe wait until the first round to bring him back because they're going to spend the money.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, Steve Stamkos and John Cooper, not Steve Stamkos, Steve Yzerman and John Cooper, if they're anything under 10 points in the playoff race when the deadline comes on, they could trade 3 players and they'll still insist to you that they're trying to win.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I know for sure.
One thing, is this insurance, Russ, because Tyler Johnson's an RFA? You've got Fopola with 1 more year on his contract. I mean, there's their center situation sort of in flux there.
It is.
I don't know.
I mean, Braden Point can have a greater impact next year too. He's had a pretty good year for them. He's rapidly moved through their system, so they're not that bad off.
Yeah.
Have an email here, a question that someone sent in, which I thought was good. If you have a question, you can send it to Eklund@HockeyBuzz.com and put podcast question as the subject. This is for Russ. He wants the Rangers to go get Jacob Trouba.
Yeah, and, I think that there's a chance of that.
Yeah. His proposal is Jimmy Vesey and Sean Day.
Jimmy Vesey and Sean Day. It's going to take more than that.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think – I actually think if you were going to trade for Trouba, you're going to lose Buchnevich. I think even though Vesey started off hot, he's slowed down. And so I think it would take Buchnevich and –
Brady Shea.
If it's not Brady Shea, it's going to be someone close to Brady Shea. It might be like Nick Holden, although he's on an expiring deal, so they may not take him. It might be.
How about your first round draft pick in 2017?
It could be a first round draft pick. It could be, and that's a possibility. But I don't. Yeah, I don't think it'll be enough to do VC. And
the ironic thing is apparently with Myers out and Enstrom.
Oh, yeah, I know who the other guy is. Sorry. It could be Kevin Klein. Because
How about Huska? I've heard his name mentioned too. Huska?
Yeah, Huska's a really good goalie. The problem with Huska is they have to decide that they're really sold on Brandon Halverson, who's in the AHL right now. If they're sold on him, they can move Huska, but they also have Sheshyurkin over in Russia, and he signed for another 2 or 3 years.
What happened to Mackenzie Skapski?
Yeah, he's around, but he's not prevalent. He's a good guy. But the point is, if the Russian's going to stay overseas for the next 3 years, you kind of need Huska if you're not sold on Halverson.
See, the thing about Winnipeg and Trouba is, like I was saying, is the fact that they're looking for defensemen right now. According to a couple reports that they're out there, Enstrom is getting older. He's one of their only few. I think he's one of their few right-hand shots. Tyler Myers is out for possibly the rest of the year. I mean, I don't think they're a realistic playoff contender, but I don't think they've given up on it yet. And if they're looking for a top 4 defenseman or top 6 defenseman, then this is probably a deal that again it would be in the summer rather than at the deadline. I just can't.
I could see Shea and a first.
Yeah.
For this. But I don't think the Rangers are going to lose a forward and a defenseman for the defenseman. If they're going to give up Shea, I think it's going to be on face value because he could be pretty close to what Trouba is anyhow.
He's having a very good year.
And he's having a very good year. Then I think that makes sense because but the Rangers still have to be able to sign Trouba, and then they're going to have to move salary in the offseason.
Right.
So moving salary in the offseason will then be a big issue for the Rangers.
Yeah, and
here's something that's really interesting that was sent to me. Sorry, because we're running out of my battery life on my phone here.
Okay.
So, but this was brought up to me that now perhaps Pittsburgh could, with Mata out, could actually look at Shattenkirk as a rental. Like this is the one situation where
it's a wash in terms of salary.
Right. Right.
4.25 for Shattenkirk, 4.08 for Mata. It's a wash.
And we've talked about, how they, they don't want to, nobody really wants Shattenkirk as a rental. They want to see, you want to make, but this is the Penguins, former Stanley Cup champion.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do it. If Rutherford does that, he's really leaving himself open for a lot of criticism down the road because Mata's still going to be a very good defenseman.
Well, I mean that's supposing that Mata would be a guy. No, I mean, okay, Russ, where's one area that's extremely weak for the Blues that is extremely deep for the Penguins? Goaltending.
Right.
Tristan Jarry, not Murray because he's the guy. But I don't know if they would be interested in Fleury. There's been some connection, but I mean they're talking about. I mean the reports out there is for a rental like Shattenkirk as a top prospect in the first round pick. Right. Tristan Jarry and a first round pick for a rental for Shattenkirk. That might be realistic.
Pittsburgh.
That's realistic.
That helps you puts you over the top with Pittsburgh. I mean,
I'm just
that
saying,
really does give
Mata,
you.
I don't do it.
No.
I don't think it would be for Mata. I don't think Mata would be involved. I think it's just one of those situations where they could go out and get Shattenkirk for the rest of the year, and then have him for the playoffs. And it definitely gives you a lot more depth than the Penguins. And gives the Penguins a lot of ammunition going into the playoffs for sure.
Well, I mean, everything out there has, some of the insiders out there who've talked to Rutherford have said that they're going for it again. So if there's any way,
they have to. They don't really have a choice,
right? And the thing is, it's like right because you have Kunitz, you have Cullen, you have Bonino, all as UFAs,
and then the goaltending situation will be different next year too.
Goaltending situation. So this is your last chance. So if you have the opportunity to manage the cap, which Mata does, you put him on LTIR, you open up that space. If you go out and you make a Shattenkirk move, and maybe you risk losing Jarry in the expansion draft because you can protect Murray.
Right.
You're going to expose Fleury if you trade him, but Jerry's going to be out there, and he's a very good prospect.
Really, the big question is, has Martin Brodeur scouted Jarry? Because that's going to be a big factor.
Right,
for sure. All right, well, that's all.
Has, right? Because we saw Marty making the rounds last year.
Yeah, I'm sure he has. That's all the time we have for today because we're about to. So my laptop's about to die. But have a great weekend, folks. We will be back again on Monday, President's Day, which we will be boycotting here in the States, but we'll still have it on President's Day. And but lots of games, and by the end of this weekend, we will have only one weekend to go to get us to the trade deadline. So things are heating up for sure. I'm going to be updating my blog right after this podcast, and so look for that update. And then I will be updating again tonight before I go to bed. So there's lots happening. Keep on touch of everything. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We'll talk to you soon.